I'm George Wrighster, he's Ralph Amsden, and this is Wrighster or Wrong, the intersection where sports, business, society, and pop culture meet the truth. Daily fire on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Facts only. Make sure you check your feelings at the door before you even show up, because you will not be coddled. The truth lives here. And you guys can always shoot us an email. I'm mad. IMMAD at unafraidshow.com, or shoot us a text message. 818-293-7547. It's 818-293-7547. Today, Rachel Nichols versus Maria Taylor apparently has become the most divisive thing in sports. And of course, more idiotic takes about it. Steven Jackson says that black people should boycott the Olympics. I don't know about that, partner. Name, image, and likeness deals are aplenty, and strategic partnerships seem to be ruling the day. And there are asterisks apparently next to NBA championships. I don't believe so. If you win, you win. Nobody will be talking about an asterisk a couple years later. But people talk about it now. And of course, the best of social media and cancel or consequence. So yesterday was the 4th of July, Ralph. It was the independence of America. Celebrating 1776 was that, and that turned out to be a divisive issue because I actually had a talk with my kids about it, because we just celebrated Juneteenth, right?
Right.
So when in celebrating Juneteenth, we also have to make sure that we acknowledge that there is a difference between that. You can acknowledge that the country was founded July 4th, 1776. But also acknowledge that black people weren't free at the same time, so it wasn't their independence, but it was the independence of the country. So I recognize those things as two separate events. So I am okay celebrating or taking the day off and all that stuff and celebrating and joining in the festivities for 4th of July.
I think that makes sense. I mean, I can look at Major League Baseball records, Jimmy Fox or Babe Ruth or something like that, and understand that those records exist without any black participants. Those are not equivalents. I'm just saying that you can appreciate something for what it was meant to be prior to the inclusion of everybody who should have been included from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right?
That was a great example. Baseball was a great example.
And I think that, it's an interesting one for me because it's, I got a picture of my dad's grandfather hanging above my bed. He's a cowboy. And then in my office, I got a picture of my dad's great grandfather on his mother's side, who, was a Northern Cheyenne chief. And every holiday means something a little bit different to different sides of the paternal side of my family. And I think that's just something that you have to understand. It's okay to recognize the context. That's not taking anything away from you and how you celebrate. And honestly, for a lot of people, they're not thinking about America. They're thinking about lighting off Roman candles. And so I would say, not to take it too seriously. I did learn something yesterday that I never knew before. I feel like this is probably something that they should be teaching to very young children, because I learned that everybody got together, signed the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson went way out of his way to make sure that it included all men are created equal and that you have the right to pursue
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Exactly. And I was always under the impression that John Hancock signed his name so big amongst everybody else because he wanted King George to know that his name was on it. What I found out yesterday at 37 years old for the very first time is that Declaration of Independence was never sent to King George. They sent a different Declaration of Independence that only had 2 signatures on it. John Hancock's being one of them. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, neither did I. The reason that they didn't send the Declaration of Independence that was signed by representatives from all of the colonies.
They didn't want him to kill him.
Exactly. Which, why am I learning that at 37, and how come you didn't know that now? Like, how did we not know that? That King George, because I was always curious about that. Like, how did King George react when he received essentially like this diss track on parchment?
Right.
And so I looked it up. I was like, hey, so when did it actually get mailed? Because the whole thing started when somebody posted on Instagram. It's really funny how all of those people who are anti-gun are celebrating a day that was won with a gun. And I reached out to him and I was like, I mean, I think that we're actually celebrating the mailing of a letter. The gun stuff came later. And it eventually like justified us celebrating the sending and signing of this letter. But that was later. Like Independence Day is about the Declaration, I thought. And then they wrote back to me and like, oh, I guess you're right. Was it actually mailed on July 4th? And I was like, well, the mail probably worked a little bit different. It wasn't an email. So, and I ended up finding out they sent it to a printer. 200 copies got printed with only 2 signatures on it. And King George got one of the 200 copies, while most of the other people in the colonies got the other 199. There's 26 left of those originals that were printed, and they only had John Hancock and one other person that was like the president of the Continental Congress at the time. The one that everybody signed was kept preserved, but kept secret from King George, so he wouldn't know who to go out and murk for putting their name on this piece of paper. I knew none of that. And I would love for people who listen to the show or watch this show online to tell me if we're stupid, but I feel like that's something that I should have known always.
I mean, see, okay. I agree with you, right? But then when you realize how much stuff in history, I mean, like negative stuff about the country, or even just historical events that weren't like flattering, right? All of that stuff has been left out of history. So of course, stuff like this was left out of history as well. I mean, it's like, yes, that should have been taught. But at the same time, all of this other stuff should have been taught as well. So there's no coincidence that a notable event and how it took place would be left out or sugar-coated or glossed over in some sort of way.
I'm just trying to think of all the times in my life I've been like, guys, if we all put our names on this, they'll have to take us all seriously. That's how America started. Like everybody banding together and putting their name on their work.
No secrets.
Nope. turns out
secrets.
That is not the case.
You got to protect your own ass, man. That was the lesson number one. Secrets. That way nobody to protect the innocent or the innocent, but the guilty in England and King George's mind. So yeah.
That's what anybody ever asks.
Very fitting.
Anybody ever asks me who I voted for or how I voted, I'm going to be like, look, if the founders didn't have to put their name on the Declaration that got sent to King George, I don't have to tell you my shit. Name.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking about putting your name on shit, it is time for. Wait, is this Cancel or Consequence? No. This is not Cancel or Consequence, but it damn sure could be. So ESPN has a big ass problem right now. Maria Taylor, who's one of their young up-and-coming stars, she does football, does the NBA. She was a college athlete. She's pretty. She's young. She's tall. Like, she looks athletic. Like, and she's good too. At her freaking job.
Quick. Yeah.
Yeah, she's witty. She's really good at her freaking job. She's also really young, too, in experience compared to, like, Linda Cohn, Rachel Nichols, other people as well. So her contract is up and she may be leaving ESPN. ESPN obviously wants her back. So ESPN, they put her on this is last year, not this year. Last year, they put her on the NBA Finals. And Rachel Nichols was not happy about it. Doris Burke often does the sideline reporting, which I feel like is beneath Doris Burke. Like, I don't mind her doing sideline reporting, but she's so damn good at the color analyst. I would rather hear her than Reggie Miller, Mark Jackson, um, Van Gundy. Even though that they're good, I would rather hear Doris Burke. And sometimes when she's relegated to sideline reporting, I feel like that I feel like it's beneath her. But not that sideline reporting is bad, but it's a different gig. You don't get as much airtime, all of that stuff. But anyways, Rachel Nichols was mad that she didn't get the job, that she was replaced by Maria Taylor. And
A job that she says was in her contract. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Not just being mad that you were replaced, but operating according to expectations.
Yeah.
Is that this was going to be in your contract, but somebody came along who they felt like was deserving of sharing the load.
Yeah.
Which happens.
Yes. And this happens in media all the time. And here is what, and Rachel Nichols was secretly recorded on June 13th, 2020, but it wasn't released until this weekend. And interesting timing. But here's what it sounded like.
He said to me, hey, instead of hosting the NBA Finals, why don't you do Doris's sideline reporter job for the NBA Finals? Because guess what that would clear the way for? For Maria to do the hosting for us. Yeah. So, I have declined. I don't know what their next move is, but they are feeling pressure because of all of that, and I'm trying to figure out like how to just, my thing is that I wish Maria Taylor all the success in the world. She covers football, she covers basketball. If you need to give her more things to do because you're feeling pressure about your crappy one-time record on diversity, which by the way I myself know personally from the female side of it, go for it. Just find it somewhere else. You're not going to find it with me.
Okay. And also in that conversation, the person that she's talking to was like, yo, between the Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter, I'm kind of out of it. Like, I don't have anything left. And she laughs and makes kind of a smart comment. So she's being called racist. She's like, oh, that this was a racial comment, all of this stuff. What was your take on it, Ralph? Ralph, we can't hear you, bro.
I muted myself because I knew I was about to say something stupid and get canceled for it. It gives me what's nice is it gave me an extra 10 seconds to think about my response, but I think I've switched up a few times thinking about it, and where I've ultimately landed before I get into the nitty-gritty of how I got here, where I ultimately landed is like, who the hell leaked this and why at this point in time? Who does it serve and what does it do to do anything more than just muddy the waters and cause unnecessary drama on a situation that should have been handled behind closed doors by responsible adults? But to go back, you sent me this while I was on a hike and said, hey, am I off base here, or is this not super controversial? And I listened to it without any context other than what you just said. And I got back to you and I was like, no way. No, this is the way that people in media talk about each other. And this is a pretty mild version of that.
Yeah.
And even though it seemed like a passive aggressive, I wish her well, it was ultimately at the end of the day, somebody advocating for their own job that they feel like existed within the context of their own contract. And because I hear so many conversations like that, even with respect to referencing diversity hires and the way that white corporate guilt comes into play because they spent so long not advancing people based on the merits of their talent, that then they do feel pressure to turn around and give people opportunities that aren't necessarily fully based on talent because they spent so long not doing it the other way. If that makes sense. There should have been 8 other Maria Taylors is the point that I'm trying to make. There should have been.
See, yes. Okay, go on.
So, with all that being said, I did flip-flop a little bit last night on just thinking long and hard about the idea that you would reference somebody as a potential diversity elevation or diversity hire, or they're pushing further success based on past failures. The fact that you would be sort of open, flippant about that with somebody else. I'm not a big fan of talking about people who are not in the room and saying things that I might not necessarily say to their face. I almost felt like the way that Rachel Nichols talked about it for the article that dropped, which I think was the New York Times article. I think I understood when Rachel Nichols was saying, like, it doesn't matter what my intent was. If Maria Taylor was hurt, she was hurt. And that's something that I ultimately have to atone for. Then you go on to read the story and say, like, there is no atoning. But Maria Taylor wants absolutely nothing to do with her. And because of that dynamic, the show has kind of gone off the rails, which has caused people to need to take sides, which seems to be completely unnecessary and facilitated by ESPN being indecisive and not getting everybody on the same page and dragging their feet on this in the first place. So then I kind of waffled a little bit to say, like, oh, well, maybe Rachel Nichols did do something really, really bad by just bringing up somebody else's business in a situation where she shouldn't have. But then I had to go back and remember, like, oh, Maria Taylor or Rachel Nichols bringing up somebody else's business was literally actually bringing up her own business, because she's talking about what her plans were and what her job situation was going to be in relation to how she was getting bumped out and replaced and everything like that. At the end of the day, this is about two people who I feel are pretty good at their job, but who I ultimately feel, especially working in this business is in the periphery that I have, and you working in this business, two people who are incredibly replaceable. Just because you know their name doesn't mean you won't learn somebody else's name. There's a lot of people who are qualified for the jobs that those two do. And for them to act prideful and possessive about those things is not a situation that I feel like I would ever be in, because I would never feel like I was that untouchable or irreplaceable. And you know damn sure that I'd never walk back in and ask for Stephen A. Smith money, because even Stephen A. Smith is somebody that I believe could be it. I don't think the jobs that these people are doing it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
And so all of this is something that's being taken way too seriously. I think people are projecting a lot of their own issues into the situation. And while it wouldn't be fair for me to jump in here and say, hey, wait a minute, everybody who took this as a seriously racial comment, you need to calm down. I do want to jump in and say, like, I do, for the most part, believe this was a woman who was concerned about her own job security and stability and let her own pride govern her conversation. I think it was a lot more about pride than it was about anything else, but that could just be my privilege. I don't know. So you tell me, George.
Okay. So I will read what I tweeted, right? I said, what Rachel Nichols said was not racist or racial, but that doesn't mean that she was right about why Maria Taylor was given that particular assignment. That she sounds like a person who's trying to protect her job, and she's also right about the company's past on diversity and with women. And the fact is, though, that companies are very aware of the optics. Sometimes they put a token minority or woman in position instead of the quote unquote best person, because they failed so miserably in the past at hiring the right people. But also, the best person sometimes is a different minority or woman than they chose. So sometimes they put a token person there, and that token person is not the right person, the quote unquote best person for the job, because they failed so miserably at actually interviewing and hiring those people. And that companies, not just in media, have done such a poor job of that now people don't trust who they hire and then try to blame it on some bogus racial issue. But sometimes it's true. And for me, I knew that Maria Taylor was going to be a star in the future and that they were going to put her on everything when I saw her a few years ago. But Rachel Nichols is a star. She's a super vet, but she's older, and she also has the right to be frustrated when she's replaced. But that doesn't mean that she was replaced for diversity. It could have been for a move for the future because they knew Maria's contract was up and she wants certain things. But the problem is that the past has been so sketchy that now people can't believe just any old thing that you say. So that's my take on it. And I got called a coon, Uncle Tom, all of this stuff.
I saw several people ask you if you were running for office. Please explain that insult to me.
They're like, are you trying to just take both sides, playing both ends against the middle? And it's like the sellout move. Like, oh, he's not black, he's OJ. And I'm like, just because I'm black doesn't mean that I'm supposed to agree with every single thing that you say. Like that, and the idea. So, like, was it lowbrow for her to take a shot at that? Yes. But the company's history at this and the history of them not hiring the best people and even watching the best people, and interviewing the best people in general has been so effing bad that it does allow people to question it. So I understand the rationale of questioning it, especially when it's in your contract, but that doesn't make it true. Are you following me here, Ralph?
Yeah, I guess. The thing that I get really stuck on is that the vapidity of this business, and that's when I say that word, I'm insulting. Like, vapid to me is the worst thing that you could be. Because it's a mixture of self-obsessed and not impactful.
Yeah.
You know, the vapidity of this business, like, we're not out here solving the world's problems. We're not. We don't matter all that much. All we can do is do our best and be our best as people. Nobody is going to remember, like, people remember Howard Cosell. People remember a few different broadcasters here and there. Al McCoy, who you can see this book right up here. Al McCoy, 88-year-old broadcaster, is about to call the Phoenix Suns NBA Finals at 88. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are more than capable that have been waiting to replace him for a really long time, but everybody's letting him go out on his own terms, you know, and he's a really, really good dude. But there's plenty of people who hang on too long just out of ego. There's plenty of people who are just worried about getting as much screen time as they possibly can. If you ever want to look into some truly interesting stuff, look into how Adrian Wojnarowski ended up at ESPN and look at the people that got moved out because Adrian Wojnarowski.
From Yahoo. Yep.
Exactly, from Yahoo. And Woj is one of the best to ever do it. But you got to understand, like, to be a scooper or to be in this business or to get some of these interviews, you have to have a level of hyper competitiveness that can put you on the bad side of a lot of other people. And you got a bunch of people in the same pool because you look at ESPN and you think, oh, that's a team of people who must all be friends and they're all out to entertain and yada, yada, yada. No. Mike Golick and Mike Greenberg didn't get along.
Yep.
Like, those guys from those guys have all the fun era of early Sports Center. They did a really good job, but they didn't always necessarily get along. You had Sean Salisbury back in the day when he was there doing some inappropriate things. Like, it's not a family. It's a workplace, just like your workplace. And you have to think about the people at your job that you don't like, the people at your job who might be gunning for your position or your responsibility, and just understand that this business isn't that much different. Right? It's just exists at a much higher level of visibility. These people do not deserve our energy put into their arena of them jockeying for who's going to be the most important person at their job where they are very replaceable. That's all I'm saying. And so the idea that all of us are jumping in to have opinions on Maria Taylor versus Rachel Nichols, even though there is no Maria Taylor versus Rachel Nichols, there is ESPN with a massive problem because their talent won't communicate with each other, and a person that they'd like to retain wants more money than they're willing to pay, and people are leaking things to make each other look bad. That's a toxic situation that, in my opinion, if I was part of, I think I'd advise everybody to bail out of. But not everybody's going to bail out of it because there's only one camera and they got these big contracts and people want to be on TV and they want to have their name known. And that's just that, like, that's not a game that I play. You know me, George. And so I can't, it's hard for me to put myself in that situation and look at everybody in the situation and say, like, actually, you're all the bad guy.
Yeah.
Every single one of you who thinks that this is so important that you wouldn't communicate with each other, or that you badmouth each other behind each other's backs, or that a certain number that is more than most college educated people would make in their entire lifetime as an annual salary isn't good enough for you. Most of that stuff is not relatable to the common person. And so the idea that we need to be taking anybody's side in a TV argument, in an inter-office spat, is very weird to me. But if it has to be part of society's culture war and racial reckoning, then so be it. What Rachel Nichols did was stupid.
Yep.
And she's going to have to reckon for it publicly, because ESPN doesn't look at a private conversation being leaked as something that is against company policy.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are like, oh, she should be fired because that was racial. I was like, she should not be fired. I didn't think that was something that was fireable. I thought that she was a person who's disgruntled about work and exactly what it is that I said. I'm sorry if you want me to jump into, oh my God. And yes, is it difficult for Black journalists and what I've already said about people to get jobs and been passed up and all that? Yes, absolutely. I just talked about the best people have not consistently been hired and promoted. So I don't know what else you want me to tell you. But Rachel Nichols did issue an apology.
So the first thing they teach you in journalism school is don't be the story. And I don't plan to break that rule today or distract from a fantastic finals. But I also don't want to let this moment pass without saying how much I respect, how much I value our colleagues here at ESPN, how deeply, deeply sorry I am for disappointing those I hurt, particularly Maria Taylor, and how grateful I am to be part of this outstanding team.
Okay. I'm just thankful that she didn't freaking get on there and cry. If she had got on there and cried, I would have gotten upset. I have to be honest. Like, there is nothing that makes me more like frustrated than fake woman tears. Like I'm going to play my woman card till like I get more sympathy. Oh my God, I'm damsel in distress. I need help. No, man, you are a powerful woman. You're powerful all the time. Own that. in these situations.
I don't know if I agree. I think a normal human being who just called a piece of shit by 100,000 people would be emotional about it. I do understand the concept of crocodile tears, and I do understand that people who are professional entertainers and who have a career in television do have the ability to feign some of that emotion. But I mean, if the emotion's real, the emotion's real.
But that wouldn't have come off as real to me had she been like at the end. I'd have been like, get your ass up out of here. That would have frustrated me. I got to be honest.
Okay, so let's talk about Maria Taylor for a half a second, though.
Okay.
Maria Taylor doesn't want to hear shit from somebody else who works at her office.
Yeah.
And because of that, everybody's having a bad time.
Okay. So
at some point do we have to say, like,
what
all
the
right,
history
we get
is.
it.
They may not have been cool to begin with. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what the answer to that is.
Job.
Yeah.
At some point, you still have to do your job. So ESPN has to step in and be like, do your job, or it's not your job anymore.
Correct. I am
and
all in
that
on
goes
that.
for everybody involved.
Yes.
Do your
damn job. I don't want to hear, if I were them, I would call them in the office. I'd be like, look, she apologized. You don't have to accept the apology. We want you here. We love you. We will try to keep you guys from working together as much as possible. But if you do, shut the F up and do your job. Be a professional. We don't put you in the studio together. Maria's going to go do football. Rachel's going to be off for a few months. And anybody else who wants to take sides, if it's Molly and freaking Jalen and Jay Will, whoever else, Perk, don't want to hear it, bro. Don't want to hear it. Just do your damn job.
Yeah, and there have been right so now, many. You're seeing the difference between ESPN and Barstool or the UFC or any, because these are all entertainment businesses. As much as they want to say that Rachel Nichols goes, "Oh, the first thing they tell you in journalism school is don't become the story." You're the one who wanted extra airtime, Rachel. Like, you're not a capital J journalist. You're an entertainer. You're at the entertainment sports whatever PN stands for, right? Like, you are part of the story. And the one thing that Barstool does that I don't know if respect is the right word, but I'm very intrigued by, is anytime there's any inter-office drama at this level, Dave Portnoy uses it to actually drive more attention to Barstool. He will get out. He will cuss these people out in public and say, you should be even grateful to have a job here. But since you're going to litigate this stuff in public and backstab and leak stories and everything like that, might as well get you both on a podcast right now. Soak in the engagement. Everybody's notoriety, everybody's infamy goes up. And let's wear this thing. The UFC does the exact same thing. ESPN is still living in the day of like, oh, we're embarrassed to have our names sullied. Like, no, who gives a shit? This is an office full of people who are all competing with each other, who we now know don't like each other very much. Either get out in front of it and handle it, or you look like an ineffectual, like just soft organization.
Oh,
you should not. At any company, and I think you know this, George, as somebody who played in the NFL, you should never feel like you have the ability to rock the boat this hard at your job.
Yeah.
Never. And maybe I'm coming from a place where I'm completely incorrect, and I'd love to have a conversation about this.
100%
but I feel
right.
like if you're somebody's employee, you should be walking your ass around on eggshells, earning that shit every single day.
Okay. See, I do think that there are some times where, like, Michael Jordan became such a face of the NBA that he could make waves in the NBA, right?
Right.
I also think that does happen in companies, but I think that your example was perfect about what Barstool and stuff does, because I've had this. Okay, Clay Travis was over at Fox Sports Radio, right? In FS1. I've done a TV show with Clay. I text Clay sometimes, all of this, and if I think he says something outrageous, I will call him out on it, on Twitter, on text, on anywhere. I have no problem with that. And the reason why is...
Our private conversations, you don't dislike Clay Travis at all.
No, I just get
it. He's another human being in your industry. You guys disagree about stuff.
Yeah, and sometimes I believe he does stuff, clicks and all of this stuff. I get it. I understand the nature of the business. Start a fight and let other people argue about it. Like that, like I get it. But that doesn't take away from the fact that we're both over at Fox Sports Radio. Nobody is going to text me. I mean, because I'm not saying either like, yo, he's a moron, this and that. But there has been stuff like that that's happened, and you should embrace it. Especially if you can debate stuff and talk about it, I'm in on it because it actually drives ratings. It actually increases the conversation because now you can get an actual truth, because when you get one side of things, because they said there's his side, her side, and the truth. And it's all relative on some level. So I believe in that relativity. And when you bring those ideas together, now you got something going. Okay, so the next thing up, your boy Steven Jackson.
My boy. Hey, Phoenix Suns draft pick, though.
Yeah.
I will give him that.
So we aren't even talking about him weighing in on the Rachel Nichols situation. He talked about that NFL, I'm sorry, that that Olympians, because of the Sha'Carri Richardson incident, he was asked about it. He was like, yo, I didn't bring it up. I didn't talk about it because I don't even know why black people are going to the Olympics anyway. We should be boycotting the Olympics, not just because of Sha'Carri, because the country don't love us back. And see how they do without any of us competing. On one hand, I understand what he's trying to say, I think, which is that some of the changes that people want to see in this country, if black people actually stood together in a moment like this and were like, nah, we ain't even going to your Olympics, that may cause some sort of change. I get that. But you got to go back to Ralph's statement that people are a lobbyist for their own self-interest. Even go back to slavery days. You had people who lived in the house and would snitch if somebody else ran away. You had people who were slaves out in the field that still wouldn't run away. And then you had people that would. Everybody is going to make the best move for what they feel like is best for them. But sometimes that so aligns with other people and what is best for them as well. So that's how you get movements and all of that. And if Olympians, they get one shot sometimes every 4 years. And this year, a pandemic, it got pushed back. You're a year older, one more year of somebody else competing, getting better to compete against you. This is your one shot at not only fame, but at your life's work and your life's goal and your opportunity to cash in big on the back end. Sometimes you're one opportunity and you're going to pass that up to give away your microphone. And I said this about, do you remember I talked about this about the NBA bubble?
Yep.
Where Kyrie Irving wanted the NBA players to not play. He was like, yeah, we shouldn't play in this moment. And I was like, no, that's the worst thing possible because you give away the microphone. You can go out there, play ball, then people are going to listen to you after the game and you talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about because people are listening. And if you don't play, the amount of people listening and pay attention is a fraction of that. And that's exactly why the Olympians should be going to the Olympics.
That is true. And another thing that is true is that when Steven Jackson says, why should we even be part of the Olympics representing a country that don't love us? There is no such thing as a country that does or does not love you. The country is ambivalent. Your God has the ability to love you. Your guardians, sometimes. You have the ability to love yourself. That's it. Any other expectation for anyone else, anything else, any entity to show you anything, forget love, interest, or even disdain, anything, for anything or anyone to show you anything is not something that you can hitch your wagon to or set an expectation by. You can't. It just does not exist. Plus, this entire idea of the country being any one thing is completely laughable. It paints this picture that America is still like a commission of 10 old white men who decide who to put on. That's not how any of this works. This is how we get to conspiracy theory mindset. The world is indifferent to your predicament The world is indifferent to your talents. The world is indifferent to your strengths. The world is indifferent to your sufferings. All you can do is build a network of people who you care about and hope that they reciprocate it. The Olympics are a wonderful opportunity for you to go and showcase your God-given abilities that you have enhanced through your own time and effort. You should never surrender an opportunity based on the fallacy that some entity that doesn't even exist, the country doesn't love us. The country isn't a thing. It's not a thing. Does your grandmother love you? Does your grandmother know how hard you work? Does your grandmother want to see you run? Then go fucking run. It has nothing to do with anybody else.
Here's the thing, is that it's not the country itself that can love you. It's the residents of the country and the powers that be in the country.
But they're not one thing. It's not a monolith.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I also.
And who owes you love?
So here is where I think that there is a what he's saying and what you're hearing are two different things. So as a black person, here's the way I look at it when someone says the country does or doesn't love me or love you, right? Is that as a black man, I feel conflicted at times about the country because I love being an American, would not want to be anywhere else, born anywhere else, happy to be here, all of this stuff, right? But when I look at my history, right, my history has been stolen from me. I don't know what my real last name is. I don't know what country my family is really from. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know anybody past my grandparents and then one great-grandparent on either side, like what their names even are. So don't even know. So, and I talk about my son had a school project a couple years ago, and they asked to talk about some of your culture and customs of your family and your history and all that stuff. And it made me sad because I was like, hold up, I don't have my country and my history is what happened this weekend. Fucking Nathan's hot dog eating contest, barbecue ribs, like that. That's my history. I don't know anything else. This is my country. There's nothing else. So, but at the same time, in this country, I've been pulled, while I have been afforded many other opportunities because I was really good at sports and then being smart on the back end, all of this stuff. I've been afforded many opportunities that I wouldn't have got in other places, and I'm very grateful for that. But at the same time, I've also at the same time been pulled over by the police unnecessarily. I've been stopped. I've been questioned. A girl that I was dating, I had more money than her fucking grandparents, and she's clutching her purse around me. Like, and people are, oh, I'm scared of you, the big black man. Like, bro, I'm not going to do nothing to you. I'm trying to live my damn life. So while all of those things happen in the country, it's not the actual country that's doing it. It's the residents of it. It's the residents that created the law, systematic racism, any of that. So there is some times where black people feel conflicted about the country because they're like, I love it. This is all I got. It's like getting a mom and a dad. You only get one. This is all you got. But there are some times where in your home, some things may not go on that are good, and then some other things that are wonderful. So I think that that's what Steven Jackson is talking about, even though I don't agree with people boycotting the Olympics.
I understand what you're saying. I just don't think that you should shackle yourself to a lack of a history to prevent yourself from creating a present. I don't think that you should surrender opportunity, leave money, leave food, leave fame, leave opportunity, leave experience on the table to prove a point to an entity that does not exist, nor do they care.
Oh, absolutely, dude. Absolutely. The next thing up, these name, image, and likeness deals. So a lot of name, image, and likeness deals are coming out now. Ralph, can you fill the people in on what's going on?
Yeah, man, I'm choking on my own tongue after going in on Steven Jackson there for a second. But I just, I get a little bit upset at anybody not taking opportunities that are just there, that are there for the taking. If you have the ability to take it, is the road harder? Is it unnecessarily so? Should there be justice? Should there be a reckoning? Should there be reparations? Always, we should seek the more just path. But I don't think surrendering what is afforded to you or giving up on your own dreams to prove a point to, especially if you're right, to prove a point to an entity that actually won't care if you quit. They will actually feel good if you quit, good if you boycott, happy to not see you there competing. Why let them win? And that's my point there. And so let's get into name, image, and likeness. Kind of an interesting time right out of the gate. I've got a lot of concerns about name, image, and likeness. Some are the same as the other adults in the room, wondering if these kids are going to be able to pay their taxes, wondering if they understand that some of these people that they sign deals with probably aren't going to pay in full, wondering if they're going to fulfill, you got some people who are C students on assignments where it's just a matter of, did you do the full assignment, right? And it's not like a subjective grade. It's, did you complete it? And they don't complete it, therefore they don't get the full points allotted to them. That's going to be how some of these advertisements work. And so if you don't fulfill your end of some of these sponsorship deals that you sign, then you're going to get into some contentious issues with some of the companies that you sign with. So I'm watching all these athletes sign deals. I'm as an adult, as a 37-year-old, I am concerned for some of these kids, but at the same time, very excited to see some of the opportunities that they're getting. Yeah. And some of these opportunities are really, really big. We've got an LSU gymnast who is going to be a millionaire. We got Masterpiece's son, who is already a millionaire because of the deal that he signed. We've got Spencer Rattler, who I've seen eating at Cane's in Tempe, Arizona, is now an ambassador for Cane's Chicken, which one of my favorite things in the entire world is when people debate whether or not Cane's Chicken is good on the internet. That's always a really fun one. But one of the most interesting things, and the one that that George is a huge fan of, is that Miami quarterback D'Eriq King is trying to get some of this money from name, image, and likeness, allowing for you to cash in and then share it amongst the team. Because I think one of the concerns that a lot of people have, and I've talked about some of my concerns, the jealousy, that's not something I'm worried about, because that jealousy exists over playing time, opportunities that assistants give you, attention that you get in practice, how many people wave at you when you're walking on campus. Jealousy is always part of locker rooms. The money would add an interesting element to that jealousy, but D'Eriq King's trying to get out in front of it. Former Houston quarterback, current Miami quarterback, is trying to make sure that anything that he gets, he is able to make sure that everybody else eats too. I love that mindset. George, how do you feel about that?
Okay. So I think that, so he's not saying he's going to share his money. It didn't sound like. It sounded like he's going to share in the opportunities that when there are signings, that way people will pay the money for a signing, and then everybody will sign, and then they'll split that money equally. So that's not D'Eriq King necessarily having money coming out of his pocket. He's just saying, listen, I'm making sure that there's enough pie for everybody to eat. But the cool part about name, image, and likeness is that it gives other people even playing ground. Like, yeah, you do have a leg up if you are the starting quarterback, right? Especially at a Power 5 school, or you may be in Heisman contention, any of that. All of those things are like, that means more money for you. But at the same time, if you're a lineman, like the lineman that just signed with Petco or PetSmart because he's playing around with his dog all the time.
And Trey Knox?
Yeah. And there's going to be a bunch of guys, like I was talking to my son who's 15 about this. I was like, son, you have to show and also figure out too what your other interests are, because there's money there. There's opportunity there. You like to draw, put up your art. You want to play video games, put it up. You might end up in phase or something. You know what I mean? You just don't know that you have to put yourself out there. So whether you are a man, woman, whatever, you have the opportunity to go make money. But I do like De'Aaron King trying to make sure that some of his teammates who don't have that yet, that platform, are able to eat. And I was talking to a college coach about this over the weekend. And he suggested, he was like, what happens when a kid makes so much money that he's like, hey, yo, coach, I got to be late for practice. I got this appearance. And I was like, that's an interesting thing.
No,
And
FU money is a thing.
yeah, but
And that amount is different to different people.
correct. But here's the thing, though, Ralph, is that as long as you are famous because of your sport alone, right? It's going to be difficult for you to have those, to do stuff like that. Because if the coach benches you, now your money's taken, now your money can be at risk, right? Because if you get benched for violating team rules, as opposed to Haley Cruz in softball. Yes, she's good at softball, but she's pretty. And she's beautiful, she's entertaining, all these things. She's famous outside of her sport. Like, yeah, her sport gave her a platform at first, but now she can make money outside of being a softball player. And there are a few people, like for instance, Chad Johnson. Chad Johnson made money as a football player. But then there became a point where Chad Johnson / Ocho Cinco became bigger than just being a football player. So people care about what Chad Johnson is doing in general, as opposed to Chad Johnson doing with football. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you bring up Chad Johnson, and that brings me to another point of something that I wanted to discuss with you. What if somebody wants to have a collegiate athlete do something physical as part of a brand partnership? Where do you draw the line on that? Because if you remember, Chad Johnson raced a horse. Remember that?
Yeah, you can as long as it's not anything that physically puts you in danger. Then
what if you're at so let's say down in Arizona they got Earnhardt auto dealerships, and their slogan is "That ain't no bull," and they used to have Tex Earnhardt when he was still alive, out riding on the back of a Longhorn. They want to put an athlete on the back of a Longhorn. Or you go to University of Louisiana at Lafayette, and they want you to come down to some gator farm.
No, bro. Anything
for a photo opportunity. But do you think a kid's going to be smart enough to turn down $2,000 to not go sit on an alligator's back?
Yes.
And pose for a photo? Yes. I don't know.
I hope so, dude. This comes down to like common sense.
What do you think about this? This is the thing that I've been thinking about all weekend long and could not wait to talk to you about. And that is that a lot of these colleges make quite a bit of money every year off selling these jerseys. And now you're seeing Spencer Rattler's got his own logo. Several other players out there have their own logo. They're going to be selling merch directly, which is going to cut directly into these sales. They're going to be competing with their own schools for some of those dollars. I love it. I would encourage anybody out there who is a fan of any of these college football programs to purchase things directly from the players on the team. Because when you buy a jersey, and let's say that you're a Stanford fan and you buy a jersey just because it had John Elway's number on the back, that money never went to John Elway. It never went to anybody who wears that number after him, ever. It goes to some middleman administrator who is there to help balance the budget. Put that money directly in the hands of the athletes.
So, if people do that, you know what the next level is, right?
Tell me.
That the school now has to license the player's logo or like their name, image, and likeness to put on there. You see what I'm saying? That's
paying players. That's paying players. That's dangerously close to if money from the school's athletic budget is hitting the personal bank account of these players, even in licensing deals. I think that's too close.
I don't think so. The schools pay for licensing deals, companies pay for licensing deals all the time, as long as the licensing deal is standard. Like if it's a 20% deal for them to put your name on the back of a uniform, or to use Spencer Rattler's SR logo and put it on a Oklahoma shirt, Oklahoma Jordan shirt, is what it is, homeboy. It's going to be $2 more expensive, $5 more expensive, but the player gets paid. You get a quality product that you know and trust already in Jordan or Adidas, Nike, whatever brand it is.
Okay,
you were already going to buy that jersey, but now the player can now be compensated for it. That's what's going to happen if they see a dip in sales.
but here's the other side of that. How does some books, not all books, but how do some books end up number one on the New York Times bestsellers list?
People buy their own books.
People
Or
buy
the
their own
company
books.
buy their own books.
What is to stop a college from having a booster drop $100K on licensed shirts that they're sharing alongside a player to either convince them to not transfer or come to their school in the first place?
Yeah, but that goes to, but they're literally giving the majority of the money to the university at that point in time. Who cares? Who cares?
Because it's still a backroom deal of where
who
the college
cares if they, all right. So what if
I do?
What if they bought it
do.
directly from Spencer Rattler's website? Who cares, dude?
Because all of that money goes to the player, and I don't give a shit about that. But the money's not coming. A school can backdoor direct a booster to drop $100K on a fulfillment from Spencer Rattler's website, and I don't have a single issue with that. What I have an issue with is a college being predatory, coming to one of the student athletes and saying like, "Hey." Because first of all, some of these colleges are going to hit their own student athletes with cease and desists. I know that for a fact because I watch some of my own friends make apparel that is dangerously close to some of the college programs that they root for, either in color or font, and they get hit with cease and desists all the time.
Yeah,
because to tell them to go through,
if it ain't close enough, you ain't gonna win that fight. You can send all the cease and desists all you want.
That first letter is still going to come. And what do you think is going to happen when one of these college athletes gets a cease and desist from the school they go to, and then they drop that cease and desist on social media?
Holla at a player when you see him in the streets, man. Holla
at a player you've done enough business in your entire life, and I've avoided doing enough business in my entire life that I feel like you and I know some of the potholes that are coming.
Yeah.
And I want to protect some of the kids from some of them, but at the same time, it's stuff that they're going to run into later.
Yeah.
And so I kind of want them to also have real world experiences, so long as it's not debilitating.
See, I love this. And the reason why is because you've seen the empowerment of the athlete over the last 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And now it's trickling down, because who started this name, image, and likeness? Who would have been the biggest beneficiary of name, image, and likeness in the last 6 or 7 years?
I personally feel like that would have 6 or 7 years. That's outside of the Manziel window.
Yep.
Baker would have been up there, man.
You swing and a miss, bro. Swing and a miss.
Talking about touchdown Jesus, Trevor Lawrence?
Nope, not even him.
Who?
LaMelo Ball.
Yeah.
Imagine, because LaMelo Ball would have gone to college.
In the NCAA.
Yes,
okay.
because he would have gone to college instead of going to go make money. The big baller brand situation would not have been even illegal. So then they would have probably partnered with somebody who was able to give them a better situation, dude. They would, between Lonzo, LaLangelo, and LaMelo, they had the Facebook show. Imagine if they were actually able to make money. They would have not only had a Facebook show, they would have had a real TV show, a real reality show that kept them eligible. Dude, they would have made a fucking mint, dude.
I know we're going long, but I do have a question for you because many businesses have to take on debt in order to ultimately be successful. Would you advise some of these student athletes if they're trying to get into this business at all? First of all, some of these student athletes are going to go, their portfolio is going to go to the moon off reselling.
Yeah.
Because a lot of student athletes that I know are already in the reselling game and doing pretty well in the reselling game. But if you can do it publicly and you can say, man, I got these kicks off of this athlete, that's going to be huge. They're going to get in the NFT game, all that stuff. But would you advise some of these student athletes to borrow in order to?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's
absolutely not. No,
I'm
way.
with you.
No
I'm
way,
with you on that. I'm with you on that.
Because the reality is that you can drop ship your merch. Like, you don't have to buy $100,000 worth of t-shirts. You can have them order it off the website and they print them. There are companies that do this all day. Yes, your profit is lower, but you also don't have to worry about inventory, all of that stuff. You let somebody else worry about it and you worry about football.
Would you advise colleges to get somebody on staff specifically to handle the fact that these players' merch that they come up with is going to get ripped off? Because that's another thing that these players are not going to be used to.
They don't even know about that. They're going to get they are going to get ripped off because
Spencer Rattler's logo.
Yes, it's going to get ripped off.
Spencer Rattler's logo is going to be sewn incorrectly being sold in Juarez, Mexico.
Like the Jumpman shoes that are like that.
It's going to look like Trogdor from Homestar. Yeah, it's going to be bad. Yeah. But these kids are definitely going to get ripped off, especially if anything successful.
That's why the big name kids like DJ Uiagalelei, who just signed with Vander Sports with
Gary Vaynerchuk.
With Gary V. The business.
How does that not position Gary V to then sign him to Vayner Sports?
What are you talking about? How does it not? As long as they don't do anything stupid, it's a layup, bro.
That one feels a little iffy.
Just signed with somebody just signed with CAA.
Yeah, I
one
did
of the quarterbacks
for development. Yeah.
Yeah, bro, this is agents are like, yeah, we got him early.
Capitalism's messy. Some of these athletes are about to get they're about to get some dirt on their hands. It's going to be interesting to see how the colleges navigate some of it. I'm gonna get us. We're gonna sign our first athlete.
Yep.
No, I'm dead serious. I got one pinpointed and everything.
Ooh.
He is somebody who is trying to get into grilling and cooking videos. We're talking about a 6'6", 290-pound offensive lineman who already had a cooking YouTube channel before. This is a D2 athlete who used to be at University of Montana. He decided to go back and use his final year of eligibility, put off his grilling dreams of being somebody who is a media personality who takes you through how to cook meat, to go back and use his final year of eligibility. And I'm gonna get him on board. That'll be our first one.
Okay.
We're doing this, George. We're involved for sure.
I love it. Yes. All right. Now it is time for the best of social media. The best of social media, where we literally show you the best things from social media. Here's the first thing. The Olympics are coming up, and this is from the Paralympic Games, and this is a blind track star. I didn't even know that this existed, and it got me all in my feelings, and here it is. And this is a blind track star running the 100-meter dash, and he basically has a guide, like a human guide, who's running with him, which I think is also
elite athlete.
Correct. That's the other thing. I was like, this dude running with him has to be extremely fast too, because just because you're fat, just because you're blind, doesn't mean that you can't be Usain Bolt fast. Yeah. It just means that you can't see where you're going. And it's to keep him in his lane.
You got to find somebody who can go step for step with you, who you might be better than. Like that. That's After the ocean caught on fire 2 different times this weekend, that was the video that I needed to see to really put me in a position to be like, man, we're okay sometimes.
Yeah.
Like that was cool as hell. Opportunity. I love it.
Yep. The next thing up, Tyler Hero was trending on Twitter because he was getting an off-season workout. He was boxing. And coming from a guy who boxes twice a week, this video made me holler. It made me scream.
Go, and again, 4 new ones. Go. Last one, just like that. Last one, just like that. Go. Hey. Good.
All I know is Tyler Hero better never go into celebrity boxing. Dude, that uppercut, it looked like a cartoon uppercut. He's punching the mitts, but there is no defense even thought about. It's frustrating for me when I see athletes train in boxing and their trainers don't teach them actually how to box and defend themselves just in case they ever get in a fight. I mean, just like Tyler Hero couldn't beat up my 15-year-old son. But he would duck, he would freaking faint or something, and he would come with his right hand straight down the pipe because his face is just, his chin is out there saying, hit me.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you here. I think it's perfect because what's the point of what he's doing in that video? It's obviously not to look cool because he got roasted. Goddamn. So
Dude,
what is the point?
He's only slightly better than Stephen A. boxing.
Okay, but what is the point of what he's doing? Is to get in shape, right?
Yeah.
First of all, he's putting in way more effort than he needs to on those punches, so he's going to be in very good shape. his wide ass cross. I'm making fun of the guy, but like he's doing a lot. He's doing a lot, so it's definitely going to do the job. He's definitely going to in shape. Second of all, is he ever going to box? Probably not.
No.
Like
all
not
I
even
can
probably.
think about
Tyler Hero is never going to box ever. Therefore,
he may
why
have
should
to
he
fight
need
somebody.
To play defense at all?
He may have to fight somebody if somebody tries him on these streets, man. Hey,
and you know what? And then he throw one of those punch, and then they will fall over dead laughing, and he'll win.
Dude,
He does not need. Also, boxing and fighting don't need to be the same thing. He's never going to get in a fight. He's never ever going to box anybody. He's doing this to stay in shape. Going extra like that probably helps him get in better shape. Anyway,
Dude,
he doesn't need to play any defense.
All I could hear in my head when him throwing punches was, you can.
If the whole thing is throwing punches, right? He was literally throwing.
He looks like Ken from Street Fighter, but the 10-cent version.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie though. If he connects with one of those long, wide crosses, it's gonna hurt.
Dude, it takes 6 years to get there. He would have to be fighting somebody equally as terrible who has no head movement, who can't even see a punch coming.
Okay. Yeah, but it would hurt still. I promise.
Yeah. All right. The next thing is Ralph is excited about this because the Bucks and my sons are playing in the NBA Finals.
Your sons. Okay.
I've adopted them. I've adopted them because of Chris Paul. I'm rooting for Chris Paul. And
I'm gonna keep that in mind that you can just adopt things that are mine for when one of my sons is getting on my nerves. I call George. Hey, you know how you adopt things that are mine? Come get one of these kids.
Well, Jared Palmer in 2016 on November 3rd, 2016 at 7:39 p.m. he tweeted out 2021 NBA Bucks versus Suns Game 7. Bucks win 123-115. What is going to happen if Joey Heim sees this and it comes true?
Man, we might have to shut it down. Like there would be systems of belief in my life that would be shook if this goes 7 games and the Bucks win by that amount. Not only will I be extremely depressed. Yeah. First of all, it'll take me a day to process that it happened because I'll be pretty bummed. But yeah, I mean, that is so specific and so extreme. It's one of those things where it's like you get the first 5 lottery numbers right on your ticket, and getting the 6th is a 1 in 200 million chance of happening, but that it's still a 1 in 200 million chance.
Yeah.
And that level of anticipation is
saying there's a chance.
Yeah, but it's going to be Suns in 4, so it doesn't matter.
All right. I got Suns in 6.
Can I hit you with a fun statistic?
Yeah.
Between 1988 and 2012, so what is that? 24 years?
Yep.
Roundabout. The Bucks did not win in Phoenix.
Okay.
The Suns have owned the Bucks for as long as I've been alive, even when they were bad and the Bucks were good.
Yep.
And they swept them this year, even though there was some referee effery going on.
Yep. All right. Here's the last thing and the absolute best thing from social media.
July 2nd, 2021, where dreams became a reality. Kevin Cash.
Actually, hold on. Let me set this up. This is I caught Ralph. This is Philadelphia. Tampa Bay Rays, quote unquote, pitcher Brett Phillips. He's actually a position player, and he went out there and had to pitch because they were down 10-1. And you know how baseball teams do. When they're down that much, they will put in a position player. They don't want to mess up their rotation. And he's talking about his awesome performance. Mind you, he threw pitches anywhere between 94 miles an hour and 47 miles an hour.
July 2nd, 2021, where dreams became a reality. Kevin Cash came up to me in the dugout and said, hey, you know how to pitch? And I mean, first off the bat, what kind of question is that? I mean, I like to think that I have like a Mariano Rivera-esque cutter, Randy Johnson type fastball, a repertoire that I didn't even show last night because I didn't have to. That's how I warm up when I'm a pitcher. Obviously, the last time I pitched, I was 14 years old, but I had to stretch everything out, you know, and that was the best way I knew how to do it. And it's just unfortunate that they got my stretches on camera. Intimidation factor to Teoscar Hernandez, one of my ex-teammates, essentially trying to get in his head by letting him know that he's got no chance. I had a swing and miss on him. He's an all-star, so it says a lot about my pitching skills. But yeah, I was just really getting inside of his head out there. And then obviously the sprint out. Just that's the approach I take when I come out of the bullpen, just ready to go. Some people on Twitter are already calling me the next Shohei. I don't know how I feel about that. It's kind of, rewarding, but I know the Rays aren't too happy about that because hopefully I'm blessed to make it to this arbitration case at the end of the year, and I know we'll definitely be using one of those as a comparison. You got to stay on your toes. When I show 94, you got to respect that. When I'm throwing 47, that at any time, I'm coming at you with a fireball. In travel ball, one outing. Yeah, that was the last time I pitched. What am I, 27 now? So it's been quite a bit of time in between, but it didn't matter. You saw the ice in my veins. You saw me go out there and competing. My teammates know just from watching me pitch in the outfield in between innings what could have potentially been on display, but I didn't think they knew how electric it was going to be.
Great that performance.
The press conference performance
yes.
was a 10 out of 10.
Yes.
And him mixing up a 94 mile an hour fastball with an Evis pitch was like an 11 out of 10. I love everything about that. Position players pitching to me is one of the more fun things about baseball. Didn't we talk earlier this year about someone getting homered off of?
Yes.
When they put a position.
Yes.
Like,
that was when the White Sox were playing.
Right. Do you think if that the fly out that he gave up, do you think if that had gone over the wall that he would have been a whiny, sniveling ball of turds? Like,
no.
Yeah. So let's just realize that baseball can be fun and have some more fun. This was fun.
Yep. I loved it, dude. And that is the Wrighster or Wrong for today. I'm George Wrighster. He's Ralph Amsden. Peace out. Catch you guys later.